Hello, I'm Jim Miller. Terrence and Reggie have the night off. The Flip Side starts right now. Good evening and welcome to the show. Tonight we're happy to have Julie Keller. Julie is a personal trainer and health and wellness coach here in the area, actually with One Life Fitness locally. And Shawn Scales. Shawn is a personal trainer and fitness professional here in the area as well. Welcome. So tonight is all about health and wellness and fitness, but let's start out with a disclaimer. Since nobody wants to get sued on this set, we should see our doctors before we start any training or diet or anything like that. We should always consult with the medical professionals first. Is that true? Do you want to expand on that?
I think that's the best way to go.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start at the beginning. There's some pretty significant statistics about people that are overweight in the United States and people that are obese. Somewhere around 31% are in the obesity category, 34% are overweight. How do we fix that?
You take it.
Okay.
And I'll follow you up.
You'll follow me up. Okay. First, I think you have to approach it from a wellness first approach. If you not just looking at obesity, what is the root cause of the obesity? Often, at least I have found, it's not just everyone just either not exercising or just merely overeating. It's a combination of lack of movement because we're leading more sedentary lifestyles, and our food sources have become far more processed. So getting down to what's causing it is always my first step.
Yeah, I agree. I think we as people, particularly in this country, we eat too often. We have high insulin levels. If your insulin levels are high constantly, then all you're doing is storing food. So that's another issue that would lead to obesity. Mm-hmm.
So speaking about food and processed food, when we go to McDonald's, when we go to even restaurants that are theoretically healthier, I mean, you look at the menu and they have to post the calories now, and there's very little on there that I can find that's less than 1,000 calories or 800 calories. Is that part of the problem?
Yeah, I would say if you're not the one making it, then it's probably not healthy. Okay. It's not the best thing for you.
So you're saying even the restaurants that advertise that this is the healthy choice may not always be that.
Right. It's either I don't want to say farm produced or industrialized produced, so it's not the best quality. It's typically more processed, and you think the shelf life of it.
Yeah. So Julie, when we talk about not processed food, if I'm going into the grocery store and I want to make healthy choices, is there any opportunity for me to buy something that is somewhat prefabbed, or do I have to buy all raw ingredients and start from scratch?
Well, the best way I always tell my clients is to shop from the outside of the grocery store. Don't go up and down the aisles. That's the first hack. So that's where you're going to get your fresh vegetables, your fresh fruits, all of your fresh meats. Your dairy and your cheeses are all on the edge. I know everyone has busy lives, so looking for the least processed is the next thing that you would do, trying to shop as organic as possible.
So talk to me about the organic thing. Expand on that a little bit.
For me, organic is more than just a gimmick to get you to buy food. The more processed things become, and the more Shawn was talking about farm produced, where it's just mass produced chickens or mass produced vegetables, and you're thinking of pesticides and antibiotics and hormones being added to our food supply. The further we can get away from that, the better it's going to be for our bodies, because we're being exposed to toxins all the time. Right now, there's a toxin in the air. We don't know what it is, but we're exposed to it. So if we can limit it in the one thing that we have control over, which is what goes into our mouths, it's going to help our bodies heal from that.
Okay.
At least it'll start that process for sure.
So as you look at, there are certain things, for example, tomatoes, that if they're not in season, you're really not going to get good tomatoes. Are there any of the canned goods, Shawn, that you would suggest that would be okay?
I would say the issue with canned goods is it's not that they're bad. I mean, it's technically good for you, but how is it produced? How is it stored? What are the ingredients are they using it to store it? That's what I would look at. Then that could be an issue there. Whether it's in season, out of season, you could probably still find good tomatoes raw out there. May take some work on your part just to find it, but I would certainly try to go in that direction before I would do canned goods.
Okay.
But I'm not opposed to canned goods at all.
So, some of the, and I am on a weight loss journey, and full disclosure, Julie is my coach, and I've been very successful at it in the 5 or 6 months that I've been with this, thanks to you. That said, before I started with you and I read the, how to make healthy choices, they said, don't eat the candy bar, eat the spinach. Well, guess what? That is not in the same category, right? So what is the in-between for those that are not ready to say, I'm going to eat spinach and organic chicken and fish and whatever else is on that list? What is the in-between? What is the trade-off? And can you have cheat days or cheat meals?
So a cheat day every week is one thing. A cheat day once a month is another. Celebrating your child's birthday, celebrating success at work occasionally is one thing. The rest of that is your lifestyle choice. So 1 or 2 cheat days here and there isn't going to completely derail you as long as your overall lifestyle is healthy. And when you're talking about candy bar versus spinach, well, there is some balance, but the candy bar is a sometimes snack. It's not an everyday at 3 o'clock pick me up because I feel tired, because you feel tired because every day at 3 o'clock you have a candy bar.
And I would say to that, Jim, at some point you as the person would have to figure out what's important to you. Because 2 things that we know that's going to happen. We're going to age, and there are going to be things that happen, okay? If we decide to take the candy bar versus the spinach, then the aging process happens a little faster, okay? So if it's important to you, you're probably going to bypass that candy bar and move more toward the spinach.
Okay, all right. But there are varying degrees in between. Okay. Shawn, where are you on carbs? The whole, there's this debate that seems to just never be settled about carbs good, carbs bad, some carbs good, some carbs bad. Where are you on that?
Yeah, there are bad carbs. That candy bar, that's a bad carb.
Right.
That's a really bad carb. I am big on fruits and vegetables. That's where I get 90% of my carbs from. The other 10%, every now and then, I like to live. I'll grab me a bag of potato chips.
So you're okay with, let's say, a baked potato?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Anything that's coming out of the ground, I have no problems with.
Okay. You're just not as okay with that baked potato one, or that potato when it's cut up and fried in methyl bad stuff?
No. No. And now if I fry it, then it's in the air fryer.
Right.
I put it in the air fryer. So that way I don't have a problem with it. But no, I'm big. I like potatoes.
So air fryers you like.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't talked about equipment yet.
Yeah.
Well, how do we outfit our kitchen to help us to foster this more healthy lifestyle?
So for me, the 2 things, because I have a busy life and I have 2 kids at home and a husband who's, in the military, so he can be gone for months at a time. So I don't have time to be like doing this massive meal prep. So I have an Instapot, a slow cooker, and the air fryer. And that Instapot can make a healthy meal for me in like 30 minutes. And it's also about balancing your time too. But those 2 things have really provided me a lot of freedom within the kitchen. And then when I have time, of course, the old-fashioned way of the stove's good. But
Yeah.
So one more thing on the first set of topics here, and that's weight loss versus health. Talk to me about that. Because I used to, and I don't think I do anymore, or at least not nearly as much. I still weigh myself often, but I used to be all about that scale. If it said something good on the scale, I was a happy man. If it didn't, not so much. Where are you on that?
weight loss is a set point. Health is a journey. So if all you want to do is get to a certain point on the scale and you get there, what's next? Health is about how you feel. It's about the things that you get to do. It's about sleeping better. It has mental health aspects to it. The bonus feature of health is often weight loss, but it's not the ultimate goal.
Shawn?
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, I think if you're focused on weight loss, at some point you're probably gonna put that weight back on. So if you focus on just the health aspect, cleaning up some stuff that needs to be cleaned up, the benefit of that probably would be weight loss in of itself. Strength training, cardiovascular exercises, those things help with the wellness and the health part of it. Will eventually get you to the weight loss. But I would say focus definitely on your health first, clean that up, get that better, and then watch what happens to your body. The weight loss will take care of itself.
So Shawn, I'm sure you see people at various ages, at various levels of fitness, with various issues that you have to deal with. You know, for me, had I walked into the gym and Julie would have said, okay, we're going to start out with 20 burpees, that would have been the first and last time that I ever went back. How do you meet people where they are, and what does that add to the experience for your client?
So when I'm working with someone, I have to know as much as I need to know about them, because I can't advance somebody if they're not well. So I have to look at the wellness perspective first. So how is your body functioning? Okay, what is ailing you? Because if there's something ailing you, then if I'm trying to push you to a point, I'm going to end up going back and starting over again. So once I clear that up through an assessment, movement analysis, not diet and prevention, because I don't like the word diet, but just looking at how you're eating, what you're putting in your body, we clean those things up. We start to get you well. Once we get you well, then I can start getting you fit. So that's oftentimes me saying we got to take 10 steps back just to take that one step forward. And so if I'm doing that, the chances are this person's going to have a lot of success getting to where they want to go. But it's just getting them there first, that initial understanding where their body's at. What do we have to heal? Is your back bothering you? Then why is your back bothering you? Trying to figure out those kind of things before I can advance you. I can't give you 20 burpees right off the bat because, again, you're not going to want to do it. It's just going to be awful.
Julie?
Well, my oldest client is 76 years old. And so being able to address her, at the age that's appropriate for her, knowing that her restrictions, trying to give her a better quality of life. I'm all about functional movement. I'm not trying to make you go out and win like a weightlifting contest, unless that's what you want to do. So with that in mind, you have to approach it to what's going to improve the quality of life.
Okay, interesting. All right, we're going to take a break right now. I hope you'll stay with us. We're going to be back with Julie and Shawn after these messages. Welcome back. We're here once again with Julie Keller, a personal trainer and health and wellness coach, as well as Shawn Scales, a personal trainer as well, and a fitness professional. Thanks for sticking around. So let's talk about exercise. And there's obviously several components to this. We talked a little bit about nutrition, but I want to get back into that later. But let's talk about exercise. One of the other things that you have changed my mind on is that it's not just about cardio. Tell me why.
So a lot of people like to talk about a plateau. If you come in and do just cardio, you're initially going to lose weight because you're moving more, and then you're going to hit this plateau. If you come in and just lift weights, the same thing's going to happen, and then, or also you could just gain muscle and not burn off the fat, and that's it's a longer conversation. But you hit this, but if you take the two and you mix them together in this sweet spot, you'll start to get the benefits of the cardiovascular benefits of the cardio, while you're also going to be getting the strength training and resistance benefits of using the weights.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the difference is that some people get caught up in thinking that cardio is the way to go. So they spend their life just doing cardio, forgetting about the strength training, where you actually need to build that muscle.
So on a percentage basis, what is your recommendation to most clients in terms of how they split that up?
That is sort of something that would vary from client to client.
Okay.
Because if you have someone who does need to do body recomposition or a significant amount of weight loss, the intensity level is going to be, the rep range is going to be a little higher, and we might initially be using a little bit more cardio in that while we're strength training. But if you have someone, for instance, who wants to do a physique competition, we're going to dial that. It's going to be a different kind of cardio, and we're going to up the weights, and so it's a very scientific thing, but it's scientific to each different person. So every person's almost like a little scientific experiment, and you can't use the same thing. You can't cookie cutter it. So you should never, a trainer should never say, well, this is what worked for Shawn, so I'm going to use it for everybody in this gym.
So I'm your little petri dish is what you're trying to say.
I mean,
Exactly what she said.
I mean, that's sort of, as I was saying it, that's, yes.
So tell me, there's got to be some standard approaches that you use, and I know FIT is something that you've talked to me about, the FIT, F-I-I-T, I think it is. Is that not true? FIT training?
I don't
Maybe,
think so.
okay, maybe that's not true. Are there various approaches? What are the different?
Well, I mean, we do use fit training, but I mean, that's not always my overarching
Okay.
concept of, if you're thinking about the time and intensity,
Yes.
the frequency, intensity, and time.
HIT training.
HIT training. That's
HIT.
what it is.
That's,
not FIT.
yeah, frequency, intensity, and time is like the other scientific part. But like the HIT training is what we have progressively gotten more into, because it's going to give us the benefit of strengthening you at the same time by keeping your heart rate up to a level that it's going to burn calories.
Okay.
So, but as you go on the journey with your client, you've got to know when to start to up the intensity, and also when to dial parts of it back as you're watching their bodies change to what you're doing.
So when you start with a new client, what concerns, assuming that they medically have checked out and they get the seal of approval from their healthcare professional to start on this journey, what is the process? What do you see? What are you concerned about at various stages?
So initially when I'm working with someone, it's all about the talk test. You know, if we can talk and work out at the same time, I know we're going at a very good pace.
Okay.
If we get to a point where they're kind of gasping or they're cutting their sentences off, then I know that this person is going too hard, too fast. So we got to dial it back a little bit. And that's generally what I run into a good bit. Someone will tell me that, you know, they've been training and they've been working out, you know, but then the minute I started doing things with them, you know, all of a sudden they're like, well, you know, I thought I was in shape. Well, you know, we'll figure that out. So you just have to be careful how you progress them, because you can get into trouble real fast, especially if a person, they might check out. A lot of people check out but don't realize they have underlying issues. So you have to make sure if they can do the talk test, you're probably in a good place. But if they start gasping for air, then look at the skin color, because they're going to go pale. And then, you know, you got to make sure you pull them back, and sometimes you got to give them longer breaks in between.
Interesting.
So there's an adaptive phase that they go through, because especially if they've been just doing cardio or just doing strength training, when you put those two things together and their body is now having to recruit all of the muscles and also maintain their aerobic activity, sometimes that's when you start to feel lightheaded or nauseous or need to sit down, and people are shocked at how quickly sometimes the most minor of things, like just pushing the sled and then doing a rope pull, can get them there.
Yeah, or lunge. A lunge is the one that really gets people going.
Yes, it does. Yes, Shawn, it does.
Lunges are nice, but they can get you going real fast.
So let's start at the beginning. If someone was to come to you and say, I want to do this, what is the first step with them? I know you mentioned about gathering information. Tell me about the information you gather. Tell me about any testing you do. How does that work?
So the first thing we would do is I would have them do a squat analysis. Okay, and all I'm doing is just checking to see how well the muscles are moving, how tight they are. I'm gonna see that in their squat, and I'm gonna watch that squat from 3 different angles: front, side, and back, behind. Okay, what I'm looking for on that squat is I'm looking at the knees. I want to see what the knees are doing. Are they caving in, pushing out? I'm looking at the hips. Are they shifting left to right? I'm looking at the feet. When they squat, how far forward is the shin moving? That's going to tell me a little bit about the ankle mobility. And I'm looking at their upper body. You know, is the head going forward? Are the arms able to stay up? Are the arms falling forward? Those are the things that I'm looking for. So that tells me exactly where this person's body is at. Okay, are the muscles tight, or does this person move very well? Okay, so that's the first thing. Secondly, I'm gonna have them do a walking test. So I'm just looking at their hips. As they walk, I wanna see their gait. Is one hip dropping more than the other? Okay, that's gonna tell me we have some issues within the knee, but it might not necessarily be the knee, so then I'll take it another step. I will have them do a single leg squat. Okay, but I'm put them on something safe. I just want to see them go down. What is that going to tell me? Well, that's going to tell me if that knee is caving in, can they support themselves on one leg? Because typically, if you're walking awkwardly, and you probably see this in a lot of people, when they walk sideways or they kind of wobble, there's something going on with the legs. Okay, but that's probably not the legs, it's probably the glutes. So that's what it's going to come back to. Are they strong enough to support? So I'm going to look for those things first. Then, and also when I do that, if I see that there's something wrong with the glutes, okay, and I'm going to see that with the squats, it's also going to tell me that they're predisposed to a back issue. Because if you have weak glutes, and I'll know, then that's going to lead into a back, because now your body is compensating. What we have is we call it the kinetic chain. So that's from your feet all the way up to your neck. If something on that kinetic chain is off, it will affect the rest of the body. So we have to, again, get you well, get that fixed, or whatever the case may be. If it can be done from a personal trainer's perspective, we want to get it better. Then, once I gather that information, I know exactly how to proceed to give them corrective exercises and to incorporate into the training to get them better. Secondly, you know, what are we trying to do? Is it weight loss? Is it you just want to get in shape? Okay, you just want to feel better? So if it's any of those things, then we have to address the food that you're eating. Okay, a lot of times we eat so much processed foods that the body just needs to be reset. And what I mean by that is maybe we go a couple days where I'll say, okay, I need you to give me 16 hours, no food, let's clean out your system. Okay, then we eat again, you know, eat for 8 hours. What that's going to do is just kind of reset some things. Okay, and if you start to feel better by doing that, then I know we're on the right track.
Okay, interesting. So one of the things that you led me through, and one of the things that I have had a good experience with at One Life specifically, is that little machine you put me on.
The InBody.
Yeah, tell me what the purpose of that is. Tell me, and I know we've done that since. So tell me why you do it initially, why you do it as a follow-on, and what do you find from those pieces? So the
InBody lets me see how much of your body is fat and how much of your body is muscle, and it also gives me a quasi-scientific peek at your hydration level, so we can see how much is water weight. So a few things that I can see, even if I don't know you, when I just first get that InBody to pop out, is first of all, is some of these imbalances coming from injury? Because is one leg weaker than the other? Do we have imbalances we need to correct? If I see that you're retaining an excessive amount of water, usually if it's 0.40, I can almost look at the person and say, you have hypertension. And they're shocked that I know this, and it's because they're retaining so much water. Or I'll say, you're on a water pill, right? You're on a diuretic from your doctor. And they're like, how did you know that? And it's because you can already tell that they have inflammation somewhere in their body. They're either taking medication or they're on that for a heart issue. So that also tells me your basal metabolic rate. So some people get caught up in counting calories. I'm not a big fan of counting calories, but I am a big fan of making sure you're getting enough food. So that helps me guide you into this conversation about what you're eating and when you're eating. I like to take a client-centered approach, so I like for us to come together to make a plan. I try to give you some choices and then let you pick the one that's most. I've had people come in who are smokers. They're smokers. They drink Diet Cokes probably 2 liters of Diet Coke every day, and then they're eating sweets. So I know which one I would pick to get rid of first. But we have to address one at a time. I can't just say, well, I don't want you smoking or drinking Diet Coke, and I want you to give up your sweets. So that helps us to have this conversation, because then they also see their visceral fat level. And that visceral fat needs to be 10 or less. And they get very surprised when it's 15, 20, or 24. Because I, at the end of the day, don't care what anyone looks like. I don't care about what I call vanity fat. which is what you can see. It's that fat that's around your organs, and that usually gets them to make a lifestyle change, because that's what's going to cause your heart disease, your stroke, your diabetes, and another host of issues.
So you're saying there's a difference between the fat that's more noticeable on the outside versus, and what did you call that again?
Visceral fat.
And what is that?
It's the fat around your organs. So it's keeping your organs from functioning as well as they should. So you want to get that fat off as quickly as possible. And the other fat follows. The other fat's almost easier to come off than that visceral fat. That visceral fat wants to
stay there. BMR. That's a new term that probably needs some explanation. Is that like BMI? I've heard the term BMI.
BMR is the basal metabolic rate. That's the minimum number of calories that your body needs to take in to support the muscle you currently have.
Okay.
So that's the one you sort of start to play with, but at the same time, you don't want to get completely caught up on that.
What about BMI?
Body mass index.
What is that?
That's just a scale that the military, particularly the military, uses it to. They say at a certain height you're supposed to be a certain weight, and that's what it measures. It's
not a real. Well, I'm sure that there's probably a whole bunch of doctors who are going to disagree with me on this, but it's not the most effective way to measure health. Is particularly if you know that someone is in good shape and they're mostly muscle, and their weight is higher because their muscle is compact.
Yeah, I'm 6 feet, 195 pounds, and I'm considered, based on the BMI, overweight.
But he has barely any fat on his body, so that's why it's not the. So when you're in the military, they call it either make weight or you make tape. Making tape is sort of the way that you find out they're not really overweight.
What is make tape?
It means when you measure their.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that's how they sort of like guess how much muscle
you said
have.
something else that was interesting, and that is the fact that this visceral fat versus the, what do we call the other?
I call it vanity fat.
Vanity fat. So is it possible, could you have a case where someone is outwardly skinny but has significant unhealthy visceral fat?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. That's called skinny fat.
Yep.
How does that happen?
Well, that's where you store it. That's where we all store it.
Okay, so we store it there first?
Yep. So that the pot bellies you see, that's the visceral fat. That's a lot of visceral fat.
But I've had very slender girls come in and be like 12s on their visceral fat, and they're like, but I'm not overweight. Yep. Their bodies actually don't have enough muscle to move their bodies efficiently. All their weight is fat.
When we start down this journey of making lifestyle changes, is it possible that we can not only lose fat but also lose muscle along the way? And if so, is that okay, or how do we deal with that?
In my opinion, some of that can be okay. Part of the muscle your body has, if you have 70 or more pounds to lose, and you start to take that off, you're basically taking off a weight vest that you've been carrying around your whole life. So some of that muscle is going to come off. But as a trainer, my job is to sort of keep fighting that battle, that as it starts to go down, then we up the weights, and that's where learning how to modulate the tempo and the intensity comes in.
Shawn?
Yeah, I'm of the mindset, as long as you're using the muscle, you're not gonna lose it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not gonna go anywhere.
Okay, and that's why the importance of doing multiple exercises.
Right, strength training.
But
if you're not using it, then yeah, you can lose it.
Which is what we're going to talk about in our next segment. Can you stick around for another segment?
Sure can.
Absolutely.
We'll be back after these messages with more with Shawn and Julie. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're continuing our discussion about health and fitness. Shawn, let's talk about the cardio piece first.
Okay.
Talk to me about what exercises you like for cardio and what would lead you one way. I mean, I know we have bikes, I know we have running, I know we have walking, I know we have treadmills. Where are you on the cardio piece?
I'm not a big runner, but I do like to run. I spend majority of my cardio doing interval runs. 4 minutes here, 15 minutes here. And I also base my cardio based on what I'm doing that day. So if I'm in a pull phase, then I like to use the rowers, because that's a pulling exercise, but it's a full body movement. I'm not a big bike person, so I don't use the bike that often. I will ride the bike as a mix-up because I don't want my body to ever get used to doing one thing over and over and over again. So I will continually jump from one thing to another. So, you know, that's how I approach cardio. It's just based on what I'm doing that day, but generally I'm running. I'm doing some kind of run, whether I'm running stairs, running hills, doing some interval runs, seeing how fast I can run a half mile, things like that.
So you said that you don't ever want your body to get used to doing the same thing over and over. What is the danger in that, or what is the problem with that?
It's called adaptation. And so your body would just not, if you're trying to make change and your body's adapting to something, then it's probably not gonna make that change. You'll just be very comfortable doing that, and it just gets very easy, which is the problem when someone goes in, Julie talked about this earlier, and just does cardio for weight loss, all of a sudden they hit that plateau. Their body has adapted to it, so there's no need for it to make the change.
Okay, so I should get off the treadmill.
Get off the treadmill, Jim.
Okay. Julie, let's talk about the weight side of this. Talk to me about that piece of it.
So a lot of people, when they come to the gym the first time, they gravitate to the machines because they're very, well,
easy is the word you're looking for.
I don't know that they're easy. They're supported, and the directions are right there, so you feel like you can tackle that. And for a lot of people, their first encounter with weights, that's not the worst place to start. So I don't want anyone to think that, oh, I'm going to the gym and I'm only lifting the machines, that I'm wasting my time. But at some point, your body's going to adapt to that machine. And the fact that the machines, if you're using both arms at the same time, that one arm's cheating. So there's a stronger arm that's helping out your weak arm. The machine is supporting you, so your core doesn't have to be involved, your neck is supported, so it's not a full body experience. The other thing is, if you're just doing a bicep curl, all you're working is your bicep. You're not standing, so there's no other body part involved in that.
Is there any benefit, and I hear what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing with it whatsoever, first and foremost because I'm not smart enough to, but is there any benefit to the isolation that a machine, you know, when I'm sitting at that machine with the bicep curls, it's going to be my biceps being exercised. Is that, versus if I'm standing, I can cheat there too, right? I can get other muscle groups involved in it.
You can cheat there too, but the potential, the form becomes more important, so using your core becomes more important. So you're never, if you have to use your bicep out in the real world, you're not going to say, wait, everybody, let me get in the chair and use the bicep. You're going to be doing something else. So you want to go back to functional fitness. You want to prepare your body for a real world situation where you're using your legs and you're trying to stabilize your back so that you don't twist. So if you're working with a trainer and they're seeing you like swing while you're doing that bicep curl, we've got adaptations for you to put you against a wall or something like that, so that we have you in a more stable position. So you're teaching your body how to push itself forward. The machines are going to keep you in sort of like a box. And
so, you know, in along what she's saying is, if you're never giving your body any external stress, then if you go down to pick up something and all of a sudden you feel a muscle in your back, is because you've never actually stressed your body. So that's what she's talking about. Using the machines are okay. You're doing something. Great. But now let's use your whole body, because that's what you do in life. You use your whole body. If you're getting out of bed and standing up, your whole body's getting activated. So that's what she's talking about. Let's use your whole body versus using the machine. There's nothing wrong with machines. Absolutely. I mean, it keeps you doing stuff. But using your whole body for activities of daily living, that's how you should approach your training.
So when you do strength training, how does that work? Do you do one muscle group per day, or do you do multiple muscle groups, or are there some that fit together? How does that work?
so Shawn touched on it when he was talking about how he works out a little bit. I break my things up to a push day and a pull day, and then sometimes I'll have a full body day. Every day is leg day.
Every day is leg day.
Every day is leg day. So
And why is that?
because you use your legs all the time, and also particularly for weight loss, it's one of the largest muscle groups in your body, so it's going to keep your calorie burn up a little bit more. So on a push day, we're going to be doing chest, shoulders, triceps. That's where you're going to find push-ups. You'll be pushing the sled, anything that's like an outward movement from you. On a pull day, that's where you're going to see your deadlifts, your cleans, your power cleans, your rows.
Okay.
And that way you are mixing up your body and not like killing your shoulders for several days in a row. It gives your body time to recover.
Specifically on the free weights. So what I'm hearing is there's potential benefit with using some free weights some point. And those are that it's more real world. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, it's functional fitness.
Okay.
And also, when you're using a machine, all those little stabilizing muscles don't have to work. So that's why if you can like press overhead on the machine and you're like, oh, I can do like 80 pounds, and then I give you a 10-pound weight and you're struggling to put it up, it's because all those little stabilizers are like, wait, you didn't need us before.
Right. So they would actually go dormant, and you can end up with a shoulder issue.
If I'm going to put a gym together in my house, let's say that I decide I don't want to join a facility like One Life or Planet Fitness or one of the others, if I'm going to put a gym together, do I have to go out and buy $10,000 worth of stuff, or are there some basic tools that I can start my fitness journey with that just require body weight and maybe a couple other things?
I am a big proponent of using bands, all kinds of bands.
Okay, talk to me about bands. What are bands?
I use light bands. They have handles. They're preset for certain strength, but they're very durable. You have some that stretch very well. You have some that are harder, but you can use those bands for any piece of equipment that's in the gym. You can replace that with the band.
Really?
Yes.
And is that from a free weight versus machine? Is that more of a free weight experience, or is that more of a
free weight experience? Because you still, with the bands, your stabilizers will be kicking in full force.
Wow. And I won't drop it on my foot and break my
And
foot,
you won't,
right?
you won't do that.
Like I'm always afraid with the kettlebell that I'm going to drop one on my foot and break my foot.
Yeah.
You know?
One of the things about the bands, Jim, is that number one, you'd have to definitely need to work on your technique, because the bands will force you to be technically sound, because they will start to move on you. You're not going to necessarily get the right movement. So that's why I like the bands. If you have a home gym and you just want to add some stuff, bands would that'd be a great way to start.
And that's a relatively inexpensive purchase, I'm assuming?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, great. What about things you can do without equipment? You mentioned squats. Do you need equipment to do squats?
Nope. Body weight exercises.
Okay. Talk to me about some of those.
So a lot of times when I'm working with someone in between sets, I have them do body weight squats. Number one, it's not like swimming, but like swimming. There's less stress on the joint because you're not externally loading your body. You're just teaching your body the technique. And the way you get the workout of it is by the amount of time that you do it for. So typically 30, 45 seconds is maybe the same as you squatting with something for 5 reps or 10 reps or 15 reps. You will definitely get the same, not necessarily the same benefit because you're not going to grow, but the muscle will be very functional and will be able to carry you. So I incorporate body weight exercises all the way through the workout.
Okay, great. Why a trainer? What do you bring to the puzzle that I might not have otherwise? And I have an answer to this, but I'm not going to say it.
Well, Tom Brady has a coach. Michael Jordan had a coach. Everybody needs someone to see their blind spot. And the other thing I equate it to is, if you're going to fix your car, would you fix your car?
No.
You know it's broken, but you would never.
No.
You wouldn't do that. I would never fix my own computer. So you want to get someone that knows the body and can help you get to where you know you want to go. If you know the engine's broken, you want to find someone who knows how to take apart that engine. You don't want to just start taking the pieces apart and then realize I don't know where I'm supposed to go anymore. So we help you set goals and then get the skills for that, and then we practice it so we can make an action. So we move you through that instead of going, I want to lose weight, and then I'm just going to come in and just start doing, everything I could possibly can, and not know the nuances to get you there.
What is your success rate?
I don't know that I have like a percentage on that, but I do have a folder filled with at least 40 journeys that have been successful. not just for weight loss, but also for people who have gotten their range of motion back, who now were hypermobile and now know where their endpoint is, so they can lift weights successfully. I have people who have lost in 8 months, have lost upwards of 50, 60, 70 pounds, who started out as a year ago as a smoker and is now running half marathons and looks completely different.
Wow. Shawn?
I have a very high retention rate. I retain a lot of people for that reason. Now, success, they all have success. Small successes, big successes. Weight loss, it just depends. Now, if I have a person that's really adamant about weight loss, then I'll get her to that or him to that point. But if it's just about fitness, and I tell them the fitness part, the weight loss will come. Because if I'm focusing on fitness, that means we've cleaned up how you eat, how you go about your everyday activities, and so your success rate is even better when we do it that way. But if it's just weight loss, it's hard because when that person leaves me, I don't know how committed that person is, and if that person is really following, and I'll know just based on the testing in and of itself, but I can't force that on them. But if it's about the fitness side of it, then my success rate is very high.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the reason that I think it works for me is because, number one, you push me, and you don't push me hard, but you push me. There are times that I would have probably, had you not been standing there, or the other day when we had 2 trainers standing there, I did something that I've never done before. Well, a good thing. But I think you put, and it's also commitment. It's an element, it's a thing on my calendar that when I get up at 4:30 in the morning and say, I really don't want to do this, then I say, but Julie's waiting. So that's my thought process. You said something else that interested me earlier, and I'll pose this question to both of you. You said that your legs are your biggest muscle mass, and there's always leg work to do. And you said about the impact of that on your metabolism. Talk about that. Talk about how increasing muscle mass increases, or does it increase the benefits that you have longer term in terms of burning calories?
So muscle burns calories when you're not doing anything. So when we talk about there's this thing about slowing our metabolism down, which I sort of think is a little bit of a misnomer. You lose muscle. If you don't use your muscle, you lose muscle. Women start, if they're not using it, women start losing muscle every month as they age. So that's why they have this illusion of their metabolism slowing down. If we can emphasize the strength training, we can get that basal metabolic rate up, which means you're burning more calories just at rest. And that's going to help you be able to eat more and be more active. It's also going to protect against bone loss.
So does your percentage of lean muscle impact your basal metabolic rate? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
It's not just about your height and your age and your...
So there's BMI and then there's basal metabolic rate. Your BMI is just a number.
Height, weight, age.
It's just a number. Your BMR comes from how much muscle you have. So right now at this table, we all have different basal metabolic rates because we all have different numbers for our muscle. So the game here is get that up and you'll get to be able to eat more food.
So you're saying theoretically that I could weigh less tomorrow than I do today, but still burn more calories.
Or you could weigh, it's not a less tomorrow thing. You could weigh more and have more muscle and burn more calories.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Or I could weigh the same potentially.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Wow, I missed that one. Let's talk about mobility. Both of you have brought up mobility. Shawn, people come to you. When I came to Julie, quite frankly, I had mobility issues. I still do at some levels. And one of the things I appreciated was she met me where I was. And we talked about that in terms of not asking me to do burpees the first night.
Right.
And by the way, she's never asked me to do a burpee, which I'm happy about.
That's not true.
Okay. Shh. Talk about the mobility piece.
So mobility is your ability to actually move. How mobile are you? Okay. And that's hugely important when it comes to getting you well. So if I see that you're not very mobile, I can't really progress you. I have to get you mobile first. So I have to figure out what's going on. Why are you not mobile? Are your legs tight, muscles tight? What's going on? We have to figure that part out. So mobility plays a lot into your flexibility as well. So that's going to tell me how flexible you are. So those two components there have to get worked out at the very beginning. At least we have to start instituting exercises that helps you become more mobile and more flexible.
Julie?
I agree everything that he said. You can't start with someone who can't move well because the risk of injury becomes higher with that. So you've got to make sure they have good movement patterns.
And you said that your oldest client is in their 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have clients that you've started with that have significant or severe mobility or flexibility issues?
I do. I have some clients that have severe hypermobility issues. So their end range is extreme. And
So
that's,
tell me, I don't understand what that is.
so it is a condition where all their joints have they're hypermobile. They can bend their arms like contortionist almost, and it can also lead to other issues with heart and just other functions with that. So for them, trying to exercise becomes exponentially dangerous because when their arms they feel straight when their arms are very bent the wrong way. So teaching them their end range of motion and strengthening in that becomes our focus. Weight loss might be sort of secondary to that because that is going to help their condition, but that's not where we can start at all.
Okay. All right, we're going to hold right there for a second. We're going to come back after this break with some final thoughts and hopefully some keys for success. Stay with us. We'll be back after this. Welcome back. We're here again with Shawn and Julie, health wellness coach, professional fitness people, all kinds of titles. Let's talk about success and let's talk about myths. Let's talk about myths first. So from a myth perspective, I hear people talking about, if you watch TikTok, right, and you see drink this 5 days in a row for this cleanse, and it's going to cleanse your liver and cleanse your kidney. Suggestions, thoughts on that?
So I'm a nutritional agnostic is how I like to describe myself. If you do anything consistently, you're going to see results. But the thing about it is you need to choose something that's sustainable for life. And the cleanses...
So the 5-day things don't work.
It's that you can't live like that. So making good, sound, healthy choices over time and being consistent in those, that's going to be your key for success.
Okay, Shawn?
I would agree. I just think you just have to make a commitment to yourself and stay consistent with that. And then you'll find that, that part of your game will be pretty good.
Atkins diet, low carb, South Beach, whatever it is. Where are you on the, I don't want to call them fad diets, but the popular diets?
Some of them are fattier than others. I have very strong opinions about keto, but other than that, I think, again, if there's something that works for you, if having higher protein and watching your carbs is something that you feel like you can stick with over time, long term, then stick with it. It has to be, again, adjusted for my individual clients. Some want to be vegan, so we have to work within the bounds of being vegan. Some want to be paleo, so we work within the bounds of that. But that it has to be something that, like Shawn was mentioning, if they only do it for 6 months and then they're like, okay, I'm out, I'm done,
back.
And then they go out and they change the way they eat drastically and then they stop exercising, we're going to be back where we started and possibly even worse.
Yeah. And Shawn, I heard you say earlier in terms of, for example, the carb situation, when you get your carbs, you get them from fruits and vegetables versus other things. So what I'm also hearing is low carb or not, maybe kind of cut down on some of the processed carbs.
Yeah, I would say cut down on all the processed carbs. What some of the research is starting to show is that is the processed foods or carbs is one of the reasons why diabetes is pretty high in this country.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Fasting, fad or fact?
Fact.
Okay, let's hear. You said that very quickly.
Yeah, fact. I am a fan. I fast every day. I do a 16-8 every day. I'll stop about 6, 7 o'clock, and then usually I won't eat before 12 or 1.
Okay.
That's just what I've adopted for myself.
Okay, and you've been successful with that.
Oh, absolutely.
And do you find that your clients that adopt that are seeing success from it as well?
Those that adhere to it pretty strictly do very well. Some, the problem that they run into is they're not sure how much they need to eat when it's time for them to eat. So I just reassure them. But they for the most part, everyone is seeing the benefits that are purported to come from health fasting.
So we don't need to start at 16-8 though. We can work our way up, right?
In fact, Jim, I don't recommend anyone jumping into it like that. I would say, do about 4 hours at a time and just add on, because taking food away from people can make someone very hangry.
Yes.
So you want to do it in,
Baby steps.
baby steps.
Okay, so maybe start with a 12-12.
Yeah, 12-12, something like that.
And Julie, one of the things that you told me, and I'm on a fasting schedule at this point. One of the things you told me is when you fast so that the majority of your time is the time that you're sleeping. Mm-hmm. Anything you'd like to add from the fasting conversation?
Well, from a female perspective, and there are many studies with this, that as you go into menopause, there's that insulin resistance. Fasting is key to combating that insulin resistance.
Really?
So,
talk about what fasting does. Can you do that?
So one of the things fasting, if you're not putting food in your body, okay, couple things. Your body has an opportunity to actually heal itself. So if you got IBS, Crohn's, or anything like that, and you're not putting anything in there, so it allows your intestines to not become inflamed, which eventually you start to feel better. Also, what fasting does, if you're a diabetic, and this is type 2, not type 1, if you're diabetic, typically you have high insulin levels. And diabetes is a dietary disease. It's not a sugar disease. It's dietary. So if you're not putting food in your body, then your insulin levels have a chance to come back down. And so what happens is your body becomes more sensitive to insulin and can uptake it when you take it.
So potentially it reduces the insulin resistance?
Right, it does.
Yeah. I will tell you, and I think I shared this with you, when I told my doctor in an appointment after I met with you, I said, hey, this woman at the gym has me doing this fasting
Called
thing.
You woman.
What do you think? And she said, yep, I'm on board. Mm-hmm. And of course, our audience should check with their doctors before they start any of these programs. But at least from my practitioner's perspective, it was a good idea. Let's talk about key factors for success. I'll start with you. If you had the top 3 things that you would suggest that are key factors for success in achieving your goals from a health, from a weight loss, from a fitness perspective, what would they be?
Find yourself a good coach.
Okay.
That's number 1. Commit yourself to excellence. And number 3, stay consistent with it.
Okay. Julie?
I don't think I would change very much. I would just say also be patient and give yourself some grace. Yeah. It's not going to happen overnight. So that would be the only thing I would add, but I think that was well said.
Okay. Well, listen, thank you. This has been a great show. I appreciate you being here. I hope that you'll come back again sometime, and we'll do an update. That's all the time we have for tonight. We hope you will like us on Facebook. We hope you'll follow us on Twitter, and we hope you will send us your comments and suggestions to feedback@flipsidetv.com. That's feedback@flipsidetv.com. Most important, join us again next week when we'll have more election news here on The Flip Side. Good night.